number of things, and let's level with each other here. Your principal will constantly be under attack, whether you like it or not. For good reasons, for whatever, especially for political reasons. We know that. Because those roles, that's what it comes with the terrain, especially in the maritime sector. Is your responsibility to defend, to protect, because you want the attention on the organization and what it is doing. Number two, the potential volatilities in your modus operandi in the sector, going on at the ports, going on along the entire environment of the ports. Matters like congestions that we used to deal with back then. Thankfully, Apapa has so improved. I visited Apapa 3 weeks. I couldn't believe that it took me, less than 20 minutes from Ikoyi to get to Apapa. I was pleasantly surprised. So kudos, Shippers Council. I expect that was part of a major stride in terms of your work, because when that congestion was a problem, it was really more of an economic problem it was creating. That's what it was creating. And whose lap does it fall to? Nigeria Shippers Council. Because the port doesn't just end inside the port. The contiguities around the port, the enabling factors for quick evacuation of goods, quick in and out, it's your problem. So you could not have afforded to sleep. And so what should be the nightmare scenario for you now is worrying that it could happen again. So what is in your playbook as a PR unit for that? That's why I said the paradigm has to shift to become much more strategic. What if the build-up begin again? How will you communicate it? How will you deal with it? Of course, management will do its job, but from a public relations standpoint, how will you deal with it? Another point I want to ask you, now that we are enjoying that reprieve, the corridors have become very easy to navigate. How are you leveraging it as gains to strengthen Nigeria Shippers Council as an entity so that it becomes a brand? Because what happens is that there is peace in town. Everybody now goes to sleep. Praise God. That peace is gain. So from a strategic communication standpoint, you should be milking it, addressing it, consolidating on it from a public relations messaging standpoint into gains. But you have got to sit down together as a team and with strategic worldview, ask yourself, how do we do this? Because the window of doing that is what you can actually cash into your brand equity. Because we're talking about how we build this organization into a brand. Everything we do or fail to do as communicators is affecting the brand status, for good or bad. So you can see why I said that the paradigm has to change. It's not just because of handling bad situations. We have to stop doing what I call, or what CNN calls janitorial services. It's CNN that came up with that term, that terminology. Why? During the first tenure of Donald Trump, he would say so many things, and then the White House press unit turned into a PR machine. They were not communicating strategically on issues. So without people like Sarah Sanders, who's now governor in Arkansas, she was always at the forefront. And anytime Trump has gone to say whatever, has done whatever, the next you see her there trying to walk it back. And CNN named it aptly. All right, Sarah Sanders was around to, of course, do some janitorial services. We are not janitors. We are communicators. We need to lift our paradigm Seriously, because that will help us shape even what our principal is doing. It will help us shape even his approach. You are responsible for your principal, the executive secretary, chief executive of the organization. You are responsible for him because, like in my time in NIMASA, our policy simply stated that the number one public image maker for the agency was the Director General. I don't know if that's the same in Nigerian Shippers Council. The same. That in every organization, the first public image for the organization is the chief executive. So your evolution must be so strong and robust to a more strategic level that it influences the approach of even your CEO and his immediate team when it comes to putting narratives out there and how they do that. It must be that way. So I'm appealing to you to take an open mind to this and begin to challenge yourselves towards this paradigm shift, to being more communicators and more strategic in your approach, whether the situation is good or bad. Because when you're more strategic, even when it's a bad situation, you can turn it around. Not by papering over the cracks. Not by trying to launder the situation. But by acknowledging, accepting, if it's a crisis, for instance, and then positioning what is being done and how you're restoring confidence back into that particular situation. It's still part of strategic thinking. But if you're still transactional, when there's a crisis, the first thing you do is to put up a wall of defense. As you know, in the port system, it's not only Shippers Council that is there. You know, there are the tractors. You begin to look for various other things and trying to skirt the issue. But if you're strategic, you can own the situation and then turn it around. Taking responsibility, showing that you're even taking responsibility to address it is a plus. It's part of what adds towards your brand evolution and your brand equity. So first order of business is the paradigm shift. If that's the only thing I can successfully implant in this team, to go back and create a stir and engender a debate amongst yourselves, I think it will make a world of a difference in directing the flow of how you conduct business communication-wise. So, with that out of the way, let's explore perspectives. I'm going to open the floor for just a few minutes before I go on to my second point. We're going to take this in phases, in buckets, depending on how much time we are eventually allowed. My style, because I've been a teacher all my life, is typically, when they ask me to deliver a paper, I always tell them, he was asking me about the paper. I said, don't worry about the paper. You know, that I am the paper. I am the paper. Well, the goal in communication is to address the issue. That's the first goal. Because it's a retreat, that's why I didn't really bother about having a written speech. We will have all that we've discussed. You're going to get it in a clear paper format that strengthens the team. I'm sure by this evening, my team will have something out. I have my camera person doing the filming, so we'll get all of that together, and then we'll have something well structured for you that you can use and develop a playbook, come up with things that can really help the team, galvanize the team, give you that sense of above just PR. We are communicators. So let's deal with this. There's nothing too problematic, too negative that we cannot absorb, we cannot handle. And by the way, you're not the one necessarily responsible for the negative developments. Sometimes bad things happen in some sectors. But how we embrace it and how we take responsibility to communicate with the consistency, the rapidity that it requires, shows how proactive we are and gets us back in charge. So let's share some thoughts. we have agreed that the paradigm needs to change. So what are some of the things that you think you'd like to begin to do to shift the paradigm a little bit after this retreat? The floor is open.
Thank you. It's a conversation. How do you go from here? That's what it's telling me. So you can build up your own personal narratives. Where do you go from here and how do you do it?
So let's look at a scenario. I mentioned earlier on, of course, it will not be appropriate to mention specific names. Terminal operator A, for some reason, unknown to you, without reference to Shippers Council, without clearance to the NSC, tweaked its charges, its tariffs. Whereas Freight Forwarder B, who had initiated a large import, let's say, of wet cargo from China a month prior, based on a prior tariff plan. Because once you've arrived, there comes around other typical problems like demurrage and all of the things that are associated with delays, which freight forwarders don't like, or shippers